let's bring in Rogan O'Handley. He's an attorney and a conservative activist. He joins us from St. Petersburg, Florida. Mr. O'Handley has a lot of experience in show business and with big corporations. So my question, because I'm a simple man, counselor, as you know, is why would Disney, which I think is the worst, why would they buy into this progressive vision when it could very well hurt their business?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they want special favors from the people making the laws in DC, right? So they're going to play along to get along. And I also think, especially with Disney and other Hollywood companies, there is a strong interest in appeasing their Chinese counterparts, right? So for two reasons. One, the first is that China has actually invested heavily in Hollywood. When I was there from 2011 to 2017, I was working on deals where Chinese-owned companies were, bought Legendary Pictures, for example. That was a multi-billion-dollar deal. They also co-finance films. But most importantly, for companies that aren't necessarily owned by China, China has a massive movie market. They have an explosive middle class. They have movie theaters all over the country now, and they have a strict censorship protocol for foreign movies coming in to reap those rewards. And I think it's gone from anywhere from 16 to 32 films a year are allowed in from outside the country. These companies want that access. So not only does the movie have to be, friendly to China, but they also have to have a PR campaign that aligns with what China wants, right?
Okay,
because if
but
they
you could do both. You could do both. I could be the head of a movie company in LA or a television company like Disney, and Disney obviously is in movies too. And I could say and pander to the Chinese like the National Basketball Association is doing. They pander to the Chinese because they want their products to be sold in China. You could do that and not be woke and not be trying to cancel people with an opposing point of view. Couldn't you do both? You could be a moderate and a fair person here in the United States and say, no, we're not buying into this cancel stuff, and still kiss the butts of the bureaucrats in Beijing. Couldn't you do both?
You could. I tend to think that there is actually a bigger plan for China to, establish their power all over the world and to also establish dominance over the United States. How are they going to do it? They aren't necessarily going to beat us militarily. They aren't going to come knocking on the door. They're going to work from within surreptitiously. We're seeing professors being busted all over the country for receiving secret China payments. We're seeing China, after Trump renegotiated the trade deal, they got very confrontational, and then we had a lot of issues with COVID. You've seen them blockading investigations into Wuhan. So I tend to think that a larger term Chinese plan, which they've openly admitted, is to not only establish a foothold over the world as the dominant superpower, but especially over the United States. And how do you do that?
Sure, they want to defeat
this
us.
division within the country.
Okay, but I think the Chinese issue is a separate issue, all right? The issue of Disney saying to its announcers in Orlando and in Anaheim, you are not allowed to say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, anymore. That has nothing to do with China. That's basically bringing an oppression, number one, to traditional ways of speaking about people, and number two, to freedom of speech. So why would Bob Iger, a billionaire, and his board of directors, all of whom are fabulously wealthy, want to impose this insanity on people who go to their theme parks?
I think there's a lot of corporate peer pressure, to be honest, as well. We had decades of this critical race theory permeating our public institutions, educational institutions, and our colleges, and now they're kind of reaping the rewards of that social investment, okay? And now you have a lot of major corporations such as Nike, Dick's Sporting Goods, ESPN, the Oscars, the Emmys, all these organizations that are seeing a lot of pushback from middle America, but they're still plowing forward with what they believe is the future, the established ideology of social equity which is just a fancy way of saying, communist type principles. And we see what happens when companies push back against this dominant national narrative. They get iced out. Look at, Parler, for example, right? They decided to not go along with the Apple, Google restrictions, and then they got shut down by Amazon servers. These companies, and especially a lot of the billionaires running, things at the top, there's not too many of them when it comes down to it. All media corporations are owned by like 6 companies.
But they almost have a group think about them. It's almost a group think. Where they all think the same. They're all on board with the progressive left. Same thing in Hollywood. Same thing in New York City in the network divisions that run the television industry. They all think the same. Is it because they want to get invited to parties? I mean, this doesn't seem to be any diversity of thought at all. Last word.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with that. If they want to keep rising in the ranks of their companies, if they want their companies to be able to do further business deals with these other companies, I think there is this kind of consolidated effort where they say, if we all stick together and we all do this, they can't boycott us all. Okay, but I do believe that this creates a multi-billion-dollar opportunity for parallel institutions that are friendly and tolerant to conservatives to thrive in this new environment.
I think so too, but first it's going to be Congress getting involved in the censorship issue. That's got to happen. Counselor, thanks very much for taking the time. We really appreciate it. Fellow Americans, I am concerned about the U.S. dollar. Huge debt, as you know. Will it stay as the world's reserve currency? That's why now more than ever, I recommend you diversify with gold and silver. And the only company I recommend, and have for years, is American Hartford Gold. I trust them. I've personally done business with them. They sell physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or put inside your IRA. And they make it very easy. So call them right now. Make sure you tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you, and they will give you up to $2,500 of free silver on your first order. Since I have been recommending American Hartford Gold, gold shot up more than 40%. Silver, more than 60%. So don't wait. Call them now. 866-501-5201. 866-501-5201. Or text Bill to 65532. Again, that's 866-501-5201, or text Bill to 65532. Bill O'Reilly here. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure you subscribe to the First TV YouTube page. Just hit the big red subscribe button below, and you'll get clips and highlights of my program, The No Spin News, every single day. We'll see you soon.